Okay, now 30 kilometers to the field, just coming by the town of Sochi. I had never bothered to look at the map and figure out which was Sochi and which was Adler. This one is Sochi. You can see the harbor, the cityscape, and going back up into the foothills with the oil rigs out there off the coast. And then there's Adler up there by the airfield itself. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and ditch the kneeboard. Let me send 2 home. We've got that little black graphics glitch, and this is just strictly due to a mod I have running. So just ignore that. I'm doing my best to ignore it. Okay, flight, go to, and RTB. It's always good to be able to send your wingman home and see your wingman actually recover at the base. Okay, now let me go ahead and call inbound to Sochi Adler. Sochi inbound.
Sochi, 519, возврат. 519, Sochi.
Okay, 160 for 13, runway 06 to pattern altitude, etc., etc. I'm just going to take it straight out here and come straight in for a landing. Okay, let's go speed brakes out. I'll wait till I'm down below about 400 and go gear down. Okay, clear visual contact tower, so let's request landing. Okay, so no response from HEC, no big deal. I'll just turn to final. Still just hanging out there at about 450. Okay, tell you what, I am going to go around because once again I'm just coming in too steep. Do a quick 360 and take her straight in for an approach. I'm not going to fly any kind of a crazy pattern or anything. Although I guess this qualifies for a crazy pattern, but I mean that in a different way. Okay, so gear down. Let's get the flaps. I can go speed brakes in. I will do that. And there we go. This it actually looks way shallow, but I know that it's good. Okay, and I'm going to maintain about 300 until I get a little bit closer over the inner marker about 280 and touch down about actually over the threshold at about 270. So a little bit of throttle to maintain this. Just kind of flying a little bit offset so that I can keep my eye on the airspeed indicator. There we go, 280. And this looks just fine. I'll actually need to plug in a little bit more throttle as I bring the nose up. I think I've actually landed slow the last. Well, I think I've landed slow every time that I've landed the Su-25. So I'm going to, okay, wind 120, 3 meters per second, wind rate 06, yeah. That'll work. So I'll keep it a little bit fast here, and then once I get over the runway, I think this is what I've done, actually, come to think of it, every time, is I've kept it fast on the approach, but then once I get over the runway, I level off and I lose a little bit too much speed. So let me just keep a little bit of throttle on the aircraft right now. Fight the crosswind a little bit. Now over the threshold, pull the throttle in, flare. Maybe that's it. Maybe I think I'm flaring a little bit too high. I'll just glide her down. That was pretty smooth. Well, relatively speaking, by my standards, it was a good landing. Okay, drogue shoot. And I'll just keep her tracking down the runway. I'm not even, and you can feel it kind of crabbing into the wind a little bit, even with the, it's not a total crosswind, but it is kind of in from the right. Okay, text to parking area. I'm going to do a little bit more of an elegant jettison of the chute this time. I'm going to do it sort of well, I don't know. I'll take it all the way in. That's what you see happen sometimes on F4s. They'll take the chute with them all the way off the runway. I think I used in the past the example of how the F-117 would just kind of cant into the wind and just kind of throttle up and then have the exhaust kind of jettison the chute off of the runway. And other aircraft that, you know, the reason that it did that was it was really prone to the chute catching on the rudder, or actually catching on what was called the stinger. It was kind of this little offshoot before the rudder starts, and you would get the chute kind of caught between the stinger and the rudder surface itself. And that's why it was, you know, always kind of jettisoned in that way. Other aircraft like the F4, you would see even, you know, taxi around sometimes, maybe not all the way to the parking area with the chute attached. So I'm just going to go ahead and jettison it right here. And my parking spot was, no, it wasn't all the way down here, was it? It was back here at this, it was back here by these MiG-29s, wasn't it? I'll take it all the way back into here and bring it into this location. But every aircraft does it differently. And, I mean, even aircraft to aircraft, different squadrons or different maintenance groups, base to base, do it differently for even for the same airframe. Little things like that. Okay, so I ended up with plenty of fuel remaining, 1,200 liters. That's about where I want to be. You know, really is maybe just a little bit lower. I could push it down to 1,000. Did I say liters again? 1,000 kilograms, and be fine as we go by the MiG-29s. But yeah, that worked out. It worked out just fine. And I see they have retrieved the vehicles from the top of the Aleutians, which is cool to see. I think they actually, I think they disappeared before I taxied, in fact. Okay, so pick up the marshaller, take it around here to the right on the lead-in line as best as I can get it, at least. That's not too bad. Just take it on in. Okay, and take it on into parking. Okay, we'll say chocks are in. Boy, I'm really kind of beat now. Okay, let's go Alt end, Control end. Let's go ahead and kill power to the aircraft. There we go. Another mission down. It was a fun day. I flew the first mission. I guess what would have been mission 4 in the morning. I think I started about 8 o'clock in the morning real time. I did some yard work. Flew the second mission right after lunch at about noon. And started this mission about 3 p.m. So what is this? It's probably about 5 p.m. right now. Yeah, good day. I don't know if I would do this every day. Definitely not. But yeah, it's it was fun to get some of these knocked out and get some more progress on this campaign. So okay, folks, I'm going to go to the debrief and see you in a bit. Okay, and now for the debrief in TACVIEW. Boy, there was a lot more than met the eye that went on during that air-to-air engagement right there, especially the first part of it that I'll kind of focus on as we get things going here. Now, the mission starts out as just your standard fare. I'm going in, I've got Hunter flight over here to the left going in and taking out some F4s, and just a sundry of other aircraft going in. But let's go ahead and fast forward to the action here. And Hunter flight has managed to take out the F4 threat that was coming in from my left, but that does, however, leave me with 2 F4s out here to my right. Now, at this point in the mission, as you saw, I started to get a whole lot of RWR activity for air-to-air battles and just air-to-air radars in general. And what I was seeing was this engagement out here over Krasnodar to my left. I did not know throughout this entire thing, the initial phase, that I had anything happening out here to the right. That just was not where I was looking. That's not where I was expecting, because all the activity had been out here over Krasnodar. So you see me looking around a lot during this phase, and it's always in the wrong direction. And at this point, I know that 2 has called out a bandit. I start to dispense chaff and flare preemptively, and that's a good idea, as you'll see here in just a little bit. So fast forward, and 2 takes a missile shot, manages to evade, and then we're just kind of into this little 2-on-2 F4 versus Su-25 battle that never should have gone well, but it does end up turning out okay. Now we come around, and I'm just basically flying in circles and not seeing anything. In fact, and I'll come to right here at this point, I'll pause. Now, if there's a lesson to take out of this mission, this is probably it right here. Now, you'll notice that I'm no longer automatically dispensing chaff and flare. I had turned that off just to try to conserve some stuff. I'd have been on again, off again. You can hear me comment about it in real time, but at this point, 2's taking a missile launch off of this F4, and I'm nose to nose with this F4. 2 calls out, and you can hear it over the radio, missile launch 8 o'clock. So, based on that call, and only that call, I start to dispense chaff and flare again. You'll see the first one go out right there as the missile is about halfway to me. So I never saw the shooting aircraft. I was nose to nose with him. He was just, well, as you saw in the last mission, if you have an aircraft that is below your nose, it blends into the terrain very, very well, and you can't see through your fuselage. So I had no idea this missile came at me. And the only reason I survived this, or at least didn't take a solid A9 hit, is that very first flare that I got out. And that flare was only dispensed in reaction to a call over the radio from 2. So that just underscores a couple of things. One, the importance of automatically dispensing countermeasures if you know you're in a bad situation and you're just not sure what's going on. When in doubt, dispense. And second, pay attention to the radio. That was just totally instinctive with really no conscious thought of it on my part. That's just what I do when I hear a missile launch and I know that I have aircraft around, and it's just paying attention to the radio. Would I have been able to do that 6 months ago? I probably would not have. That's just what comes after doing this over and over and over. You start to pick up on things that you wouldn't normally pick up on, and in either case, I got very, very lucky right there. Now, at this point, I'm starting to come around and I'm starting to pick things up visually. Now, I was 2 versus 2 F4s. I now have these MiG-23s coming down from Krasnodar. This MiG-23 that just shot the R-24 is going to take care of half of the F4 threat. I'm coming around. I've got this F4 in sight. So does 2. And unbeknownst to me, so did the MiG-23. So I'm coming around here and you'll see me start to, yeah, you can see the red line going out saying that I have a missile launch or a missile lock. So I fire the missile, and I mentioned in real time that it was a bad geometry on this setup, and I'll explain exactly what I mean here. You can see that at the point that I took the shot, the F4 was side on to me. To evade the missile, if it had just pulled straight into me and outturned the missile, it could have done that easily. I'm also not looking at the optimum position on the aircraft to get a good hit. The best case here would have had me looking straight down the tailpipe, straight down the hottest part of the F4. And I think it's for that reason that the missile, as you can see, goes for the flare and does not go for the F4. Now, luckily this MiG-23 right here did get the hit. I thought that was my hit in real time. I'll still claim it. It wasn't a bad shot on my part. It was just a little suboptimal. This is the optimal setup right here. Looking straight down the tailpipe of the F4. I've got my missile off, and you can see the F4 start to dispense, but since I did have good geometry on that one, the missile did ignore the flare, and it went straight into the tailpipe of the F4, and that managed to take it out. Now at this point, the air threat is still present, but it's still present over Krasnodar. I see the MiG-23 at this point, so I start to disregard everything when it comes to aircraft and just focus strictly on finding the target. Now the target is right here, defended by, as you can see, the FIM-92 Stinger man-pad, man-portable air defense system, shoulder-mounted, with a Gepard that I had noted during the briefing right there. So that's why I came in from this angle. It was to go in, drop my bomb, turn out to the left, and then basically retrace my steps, making sure that I don't get far enough north to mess with the Roland, or to, for that matter, mess with the Hawk, which, yeah, I had actually taken a missile launch off of this Hawk site initially, and I think it was the chaff that I had going out that was able to spoof that missile launch. Now, okay, getting set up on this, and this was just as simple as could be once I found the target, and I had found the target way before this, as you saw. Now, the one thing that I wish I had done differently here, and that is, it's a challenge no matter what flight sim or what you're doing. Hopefully the virtual reality type stuff, Oculus Rift, is going to help with this a little bit, but I always in a flight sim have a hard time judging dive angle. Now, you can do it using cues on parts of your aircraft, like for the A-10, I know just from looking at the canopy frame and where the target is in relation to the frame what the dive angle is going to be. I don't have that for the Su-25, I was just eyeballing it. What I had in mind here was more like a 45-degree dive, something like this. Okay, I roll in right there with the target right here, 45-degree dive, release my weapon, and then come off left. I ended up in more of like a 25 degrees at most dive. So that had me flying straight and level, straight into this side a lot longer than I would have liked. I could have cut about a third of this off and been not flying straight and level for a lesser time. Luckily, there was nothing else in the area that was going to be shooting at me at this point. Now, as I noted also during the mission briefing, one way or another, I was going to get within the Stinger engagement envelope that you can see right there as the big blue circle or the big blue sphere. So I'm coming up on the release point. I use sort of like a CCRP. I depress and hold the weapons release switch, and then once it gets me into a good position, it releases the bomb. Now simultaneously with the bomb release, and this was another case of being very, very lucky, I get a Stinger launch on me that goes straight at that first flare. And you start to see kind of a pattern here if you really pay attention. The cases where I've had the flare be very, very effective have been in cases where I've been head on with a target, just like you saw on that F4, just like you saw on this Stinger, just like we saw on the Stingers in previous missions. So, and I feel like I'm probably stating the obvious here if you've been watching these for a while, but that means that it's relatively easy to get into the target, but relatively hard to get out of the target once you have expended your weapon and are trying to egress the area. That's why I don't mind so much and didn't mind not so much on this release coming in straight and level at a known threat, because I knew that based on past experience I was going to have a pretty good chance of evading anything that got fired. It was at this point that I really started to worry, and you can see what I do here after the bomb's impact. I just start to really move the aircraft around, not be predictable. I was trying to just get out of that area as quickly as I could, took it down to low level, and just made my escape. Now, luckily, my bomb did take out that initial FIM-92, and I didn't get any more fired on me. And luckily, I didn't go in for another attack because I have two more pop up right there, and then seconds later, I have two more pop up. So, yeah, lesson learned, at least on this campaign. Yeah, one pass is all you're going to get safely on any kind of a target. Now, you'll notice one little mistake I made here. Now, I was saying how auto-dispensing flare saved me before. Not auto-dispensing flare really almost got me here. I thought I was auto-dispensing right here, and you hear me kind of catch it later on when I say that I'm going to stop auto-dispensing right after I've exited the target area, and then all of a sudden I start to dispense again. So it's easy to lose track in this aircraft because you don't have any kind of an indication in the cockpit saying when you are and are not dispensing. And those were some, well, fairly good bomb hits. You couldn't really see the target right there, but one of them was about, I don't know, it was within about 30 feet. The other one dropped a little bit long, but you don't get any kind of a positive indication in the cockpit other than listening and looking whether or not you're dispensing. And yeah, it is easy to lose track of when you are and when you're not, and I did lose track right there. I was very, very lucky that I started to dispense after I saw the missile launch. I would rather have been dispensing already. Yeah, you can see me pop them off right there. That's where I thought I was turning off the auto dispense feature. So from there on out, it is pretty much as you saw. I just picked a good path to get out of there. That was all pre-planned, all exactly according to what I had planned in the pre-mission planning session. But folks, I'm going to call this one good right here, move on to the next mission, and I'm going to wait for DCS 1.5. If you're watching these in real time, that's due to be released in a week or two. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll see you then. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.